realized I didn't really know much about it, other than the stereotypes, I guess, of like, oh, natives, they're alcoholics, they're drunks, they are dropouts out of high school, they end up poor and homeless and everything.
Aboriginal people are, drunks, and they, like do drugs, and they're just dirty people.
If you were an Indian, you're basically an animal. That's why we're called Indians.
The foster care system, a lot of times politicians and social workers will say that it's broken. It's not broken. It's working exactly the way they created it for. The foster care system was the child of residential school. Residential schools were created to take Indigenous youth away from their families to kill the Indian in the child. It was used to destroy language, destroy culture, and destroy any aspect of that otherness.
I think it stems back to systemic racism when Canada was colonized. Our rights were hugely oppressed. I think it's from historical systemic racism. That's what it is. Yeah.
To understand that, I think you would need to really understand the history of colonization in our country, what happened from the point of first contact, and abhorrent child welfare practices that have existed within the last century in our country, including legacies like the residential schools, the 60s scoop.
Pare os aliados sem pegar atalho, gostando ou não, gostando ou não. Eu sei. Pode ser, é claro de ver o que vier, o coração me coloca à prova pra mostrar, não foi tudo em vão.
And it also stems from a concept of intergenerational trauma. If you're viewing this in context of the young people that we just videoed, they have a fantastic grasp of intergenerational trauma and the impact that it's had on their lives. But certainly as abhorrent child welfare practices were practiced, that impacted not only the children then, but those children's children and the children's children from there.
I've been in foster care since I was 7 years old, so it was 11 years.
I was in the foster care system by the age of 3, and I aged out at 19, so I spent 16 years in the foster care system. I've been in foster care for 16 years now, since I was 2 years old.
I've been in foster care since birth.
In my 16 years in care, I had maybe 2 years of a good situation, and that was while I was leaving care. My time in care has been really a mixed basket. I've met a lot of really neat people, and I've had a lot of support, but also there's been a lot of negatives, that go along with it, being in foster care. I never really was connected with my siblings. I'm the second youngest of 7 kids, and the only one that I'm sort of close to is my younger brother.
My foster care experience has had its ups and downs, I guess. I was fortunate enough to live in the same foster home with 3 of my biological siblings for about 16 years. I moved recently due to they had troubles. They were very religious, I guess, and I didn't share quite the same beliefs, and they didn't understand mental illnesses that they can't see, like anxiety or depression.
There was a lot of abuse, neglect, mistreatment miscommunications, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia. There was a lot of hate and discrimination and violence put onto me, so it was not a good experience. So.
Besides that, I think I was very fortunate to be raised. I mean, I was taught to read, write. They'd always take me on vacation with them. We had like a family cabin, so it was pretty good for the most part.
I had lived in 5 different placements.
My experience overall was better than most people here, and I only moved houses 3 times, so I wasn't moved around a lot, and I didn't have to like move schools a lot or anything. Well, at the time I was quite young, or like a young teenager, and so I didn't know how to tell other people, and so I just mostly kept it to myself.
Technically, you're meant to talk to your social worker, but the turnaround for social workers is quite quick. So there were often times that I was told I had a new social worker, and then by the time I go to meet them, I have a new one. And it's a new one over and over and over again, and they're meant to read your file before they meet you. So there was a lot of paperwork they had to do in order to talk to me. So there wasn't a lot of people I could talk to because it was such a revolving door of people.
Some positives, I think, being on the Youth Advisory Committee has really allowed me to kind of express my voice and to kind of really make a visible change in the care system.
So I always felt alone in the fact that nobody else was in foster care itself, nobody else was Aboriginal. And then like I come into this room full of people who are Aboriginal, who have had similar experiences, and I'm like, wow, this is like home. Our main goal is to help improve the foster care system. So what we do is believe what happens now is any kind of practices and policies are run by us now. We also help to change it.
This office, the social work office, they gave us the power to give our input with no like restrictions.
We talk in front of lawyers, judges, different social workers, schools, or organizations in itself, and we talk about what we could do better to improve the foster care system, and we also ask if youth have a voice, I guess, in their organization. And if youth don't have a voice, then we ask why.
I'm really excited to go to Victoria to be able to have lunch with the Premier and other people from the BC government. This is over their lunchtime, so we only have like an hour to be able to talk to them, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it.
British Columbia has a pretty powerful group of people who raise their voice. There are pockets of resistance and resiliency in these youth in care being led by Indigenous former youth in care who are raising their voice and raising other voices.
I feel like youth that feel not confident in who they are should be surrounded by people that are immersed in culture and want to share that with the youth in question.
I also feel like a lot of the culture was lost, and so because all that knowledge was lost, that a lot of the younger people don't have a lot of the knowledge of it, and so they feel a bit insecure that they don't know much about their culture, and I feel like if they knew more, then they would be more confident. Like I knew a lot since I was little because of how I grew up, so I was always very confident with the fact that I was Native, when other people, like how Riley didn't know and he was kind of ashamed, and I think that's the reason why he's not having the knowledge.
I guess I'd have to say just encouragement, support from everybody else as well. Also, I think getting it out there about like committees like this or different kind of Aboriginal groups that are specific for Aboriginal.
I think that the stereotypes and being Aboriginal should be destigmatized. I think that that there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that comes with being Aboriginal, and I think that it's about time for that to be shared. You know, it's not just like all of this knowledge and wisdom isn't just for us. You know, us the Aboriginal people. I think that it's knowledge that everybody should have. Which is why I totally think that it should be part of the school curriculums, and that everybody should know.
If I could wave a magic wand, I would still be with my parents, but it would be like part-time. It would be where my parents needed help and support to take care of me. So it wasn't me in foster care, it was all of us in care together. Because my parents were never given the space to be parents, and I was never given the space to be a child. So I definitely think that if we were together, there would be a different outcome and circumstance.
I feel like they should work more on getting families back together instead of just taking kids away, and I feel like they should focus more on getting the parents to be better parents, and I know sometimes that won't always be able to happen. So if it is a situation where it is too hard to get them back with their family, is to have to be able to have more permanency with like the homes that they're in and the social workers that they're working with.
Probably more visits with the youth in care to make sure that everything's okay, and just make sure that they're in contact with their biological family if they choose to and if that's an option.
They're in more need of especially Aboriginal social workers and people who really invest time with the youth as well.
Our bigger goals is to push the age of care to 25. So to 25. We think that that's a good time for funding and support.
Because right now the age is 19, and a lot of the youth, they have to put all of their stuff in trash bags when they're 19 and just kind of shoved out the door and like, bye, good luck with your life.
There would be youth advisory committees in the Ministry of Child and Family Development. That's the main department of the government that deals with foster care. I think it makes sense, like having a youth voice in the administration in regards to like providing services and programs for youth. Like it makes sense that there's that kind of input in there, affecting it, changing it.
Now I feel very proud of it. Now that I've learned more of our traditions, our medicines, kind of, it's like a whole new lifestyle and way of life, and it's a lot more welcoming, I guess. A lot more grounded, yeah.
A bit more proud, I guess you could say. I didn't really know as much like before, but now I'm more involved with the community and my culture.
I don't ignore that side of me anymore, and I stand taller and I'm proud of who I am.
I'm finally at a point where I can say that I'm proud of being Aboriginal.
There are so many folks who have experienced this system, and it hasn't broken them. It's made them stronger. Maybe a little colder, maybe a little sharper. That comes with the, the property, so to speak. But we are some resilient folks. We are some strong folks. We keep on getting up over and over and over again.
We're definitely not alone. There may be few of us in numbers, but when we come together, we're really strong.
That the community of youth in care and former youth in care advocates and activists are so large that we're making some serious change. So I'm really excited for that.